Hello, everyone. Ooh, we have a great crowd already. Thank you all so much for joining us. This is Left Bank Books and Central Reform Congregation. Welcome the founding rabbi of Central Reform Congregation, Rabbi Susan Talve, and artist and speaker Siona Benjamin, who will discuss their new book, The Zodiac Floor, at Central Reform Congregation. They will be in conversation tonight with Wendy Jaffe. Left Bank Books is St. Louis's oldest independent bookstore. We are celebrating 51 years this year. We would like to thank all of our supporters, the supporters of Central Reform Congregation, Rabbi Susan Talby, Siona Benjamin, and the Jaffes, and everyone for their outpouring of love for our bookstore. We have adapted to the current situation and are bringing you the things that you love the most about Left Bank Books, with curbside pickup and delivery to anywhere in the country, anywhere in the world even. If you are watching from very far away, you can email us at info@left-bank.com. You can find that information on our website on how to order internationally. We are happy to be able to bring our event series virtual. We believe that events are a way to expand your mind and bring in new thoughts to make the world a better place. We hope that you enjoyed this event, and we hope that you support Left Bank Books by purchasing a copy for you or for all of your friends at left-bank.com. We just got our copies in today, so they will be available starting tomorrow for curbside pickup, and we will also be getting them in the mail. So if you put your order in now, we will be processing those as fast as possible and getting them to you hopefully by the end of Hanukkah. Purchasing a signed copy of the book from Left Bank Books allows us to keep our bookstore and staff here through the most unusual of times. So thank you for your support. We need your support. I am Shane Mullen. I'm the events coordinator for Left Bank Books. I help produce our hundreds of author events each year with a fantastic team here in St. Louis. I personally would like to add that I have found safety, comfort, and refuge even at CRC. So I want to thank them for their very important work and support in the community. They are a great neighbor for the bookstore to have. We are very happy to have this wonderful relationship. Tonight, we will be taking questions from you, the audience, at the end of the event. So you can type your questions as a comment. You can do that at any point throughout the conversation, and we will get to those at the end. Be sure to follow Left Bank Books on Facebook to be notified about all of our fantastic virtual events. And also be sure to follow CRC on Facebook. And now for tonight's event, the Zodiac Floor. Rabbi Susan Talve and Indian Jewish author Siona Benjamin sat together in the back of a bus leaving Jaipur, India, and they began imagining. What they dreamed about on that trip across the world in 2014 were their plans for a circular mosaic floor for Central Reform Congregation. And that would be like those that adorn the floors of ancient synagogues in Israel. But theirs would have an edge. It would celebrate traditional Jewish holidays, but also feminism and racial, cultural, and gender diversity. It would feature astrological symbols on the zodiac wheel. Now, those ideas that Benjamin and Talve have envisioned on a back road in India have been transformed into a 15-foot diameter mosaic on the floor of the synagogue's entrance lobby. Benjamin, who lives outside New York City in Montclair, New Jersey, spent over a year working on the CRC floor design and painting in close consultation with the rabbi. A scan of the painting was created, and 320 porcelain tiles with ceramic glaze were fired at a very high temperature and numbered to fit together like a jigsaw puzzle. On Shabbat and on August 14th, 2015, the congregation saw the completed mosaic floor for the first time. While its holiday themes, laid out in chronological order around the circle, elicit feelings of warmth and tradition, the mosaic is provocative and challenging. The mosaic floor offers beautiful photographs of the artwork and the story of the journey. Rabbi Susan Talby is the founding rabbi of Central Reform Congregation, the only Jewish congregation located within the city limits of St. Louis. When other congregations were leaving the city for the suburbs, Rabbi Susan joined with a small group to keep a vibrant presence in the city, to be on the front line of fighting the racism and poverty plaguing the urban center. Today, she performs life cycle events, leads worship services for the 750 plus households that comprise the congregation, and is actively involved in the teaching of young and adult members. She also teaches courses on Jewish life and thought in both the Jewish and non-Jewish communities. Rabbi Susan was ordained by Hebrew Union College in Cincinnati in 1981, where she earned a master's degree in Hebrew letters and a Doctor of Divinity. She was honored with the college's Stephen Levinson Award for Community Service after founding the Jewish Early Learning Cooperative, Ohio's first licensed infant child care program in the workplace. She was the first non-Christian to receive an honorary doctorate from Eden Theological Seminary in 2011 for a career of visionary and bold leadership in supporting interfaith relations in the St. Louis community. She was awarded honorary degrees from Washington University, St. Lawrence University, and has received many awards for her efforts on behalf of the Jewish and non-Jewish community. She and her husband, Rabbi James Stone Goodman, are the proud parents of 3 wonderful adults and 2 grandsons. Siona Benjamin's unique perspective as an Indian American Jewish artist has inspired her to create art that represents her transcultural and multicultural narrative. Often featuring blue characters, Siona's work illuminates vibrant colors, cultural, and religious symbols in various mediums to create works that have synergy and meaning. Her art has been shown in galleries, museums, and sacred spaces around the world. She was awarded 2 prestigious Fulbright fellowships to explore the theme of multicultural art in Israel and India. She creates art installations, art commissions, and artworks for private and public spaces. As an artist and speaker, she shares her personal journey through live speaking engagements. And tonight they will be in conversation with Wendy Jaffe. Wendy began worshiping at CRC in 1994 while an MSW student at Washington University's Brown School. Rabbi Susan married Wendy and her husband Neil Jaffe in 1999. Their 18-year-old son Adam grew up at CRC and currently teaches religious school classes alongside some of the teachers and rabbis. It is clear the Jaffe family is devoted to CRC. Neil is in the book business and helped facilitate CRC publish its first book, The Zodiac Floor, tonight's book. When Rabbi Susan suggested Neil for tonight's moderator, he suggested his wife, Wendy, instead. Wendy interviewed both Alice Hoffman and Sarah Kinsior, the beloved Sarah Kinsior, for the St. Louis Jewish Book Festival and is an ideal moderator for this evening's discussion. And now I am so happy, proud, and without further ado, I will finish talking now. If you would please help me in welcoming Rabbi Susan Talve, Siona Benjamin, and Wendy Jaffe for Left Bank Books. And if you would give them a giant round of applause while I welcome them to the screen. Hello, everyone.
Hi. 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 Oh my gosh, thank you so much. Shane, you have been amazing to work with. Just a pleasure, and your enthusiasm for the project has made this night even better. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, well, this is exciting. CRC's first published book. So I thought we'd start maybe, Rabbi Susan, you've talked about this floor mosaic being a dream for years. And in fact, CRC was built in 2000 with a space a temporary space until it was filled in 2015. So you had this idea. It took you that long to find an artist who shared your vision, but you found her in Siona Benjamin. So maybe would you talk about your original inspiration for the floor?
Yes. You know, CRC was founded in 1984, and we had core values. And one of those values was to never have a building. We were not going to put more energy and more resources into bricks. We wanted to put it into people and programs. So we were never going to have a building. But then, you know, God laughs. And we had to, we got big enough that it was the responsible thing to do to build our own building. And, you know, we had ideas about that. We wanted it to be ADA accessible. We wanted it to be as green as it could be. And I wanted every inch of this building that we were thinking about as a gift to the community, to the Central West End. And of course, we love Left Bank Books. It's part of our neighborhood. And we wanted everything to be a teaching tool. And so one of the ideas I came up with was, I had learned from Arthur Waskow about the connectedness of the holidays, that every holiday is connected. You cannot have Passover, for example, unless you have Purim first. You can't have Rosh Hashanah. You can't have a new year unless you've grieved the past year. So I really wanted a floor where our students, where we could walk the holidays and really feel how they were connected to each other. I had also worked as an archaeologist before I was a rabbi for many years, and in both Israel and in North Africa. And one of the things I was always fascinated with were the mosaics, because the mosaics, the floors of the Greek and Roman, especially periods, told stories. They told you a lot about the people that lived there. They told their stories. They put their hearts on the floor. They built it in, to their floors, to their buildings. And I was always fascinated by Beit Alpha, which is one of the mosaic floors in the Galilee, a 6th century floor influenced by, clearly, Babylonians. And it has the Zodiac on it. It's not the only Zodiac floor, but it's one of the most famous. And right in the middle of that floor was Helios, the sun god. Now, what is that doing on a floor, a synagogue floor? Was it a tip of the hat to, the reigning culture? Okay, we're not going to be a problem. Kind of like we put, eagles, American eagles, even on Israeli flags, or was it the idea that we could take ideas and teachings and images from other cultures and not be afraid that we would lose ourselves, And that's what I like to think. And so having the Zodiac on the floor for me, in addition to loving the Zodiac, you've got 3 Sagittarians right here on the screen. And loving we say Mazel Tov, right? May your stars be good. So we know that the Zodiac has been part of our culture and for generations and generations. It was also a symbol for me that we are open to the teachings from other faiths, to teachings from other cultures, and that the more we learn about each other, the better we can be. And Siona got it, And,
she really did.
Yeah, I knew what had to be there. It was going to be the holidays. It was going to be the Zodiac, but it took the vision of Siona and the artistry of Siona with all of the influences that she brings together to tell us how to do it and to make sure it could be done.
She did it so beautifully. Thank you. Siona, so now I'm wondering, how did you experience yourself making this vision tangible? So taking this idea that Susan's, her inspiration, and manifesting it with your own signature style, your artistic, the way you visualize things, and also what was it like to co-design with a rabbi and a congregation?
Mm-hmm. Well, I want to start off by saying that, first of all, and most importantly, it was because of Rabbi Susan that, she understands diversity, okay? Let me tell you. From the day one that I met her, that is what struck me, that I have found a home with her and her teachings and her congregation, even though I lived in Southern Illinois at that time, and now I live in New Jersey. But, rabbis like this gave me hope that they understand what the real meaning of diversity is and the importance of it. So that was the big step. And so collaborating with her was, I want to answer the second question first, was not hard because she really got it. She understood my complexity of being an Indian Jew, of being asked repeatedly here in the United States, how come there are Jews in India? But people like her never ask that question. And if they do, they will ask with curiosity, tell me more about it. Not like, it's different and therefore weird. So, that was the comfort zone that I started off with, that she totally got. She had, all kinds of iconography in her, and she knew so much about India. And then we went on this trip to India with her 25 of her congregation members, and I had the greatest time. I really had a wonderful time with them, and then to spend all that time with Rabbi and her husband, and then her daughters joined also, and we actually went to to Ayurvedic spa in the end, and which was very fun. But all that time was spent just also kind of just brainstorming and talking about what we're going to do, and it was just fun. Like, and we did sketches on little bus tickets, at the back of the bus, and I kept those little tickets in my book that I was reading, and I brought them back and I transferred them to my sketches. And I think we spent several months just brainstorming as to what would go and how it would flow and what would be the size, and all of that kind of dimension problem. We measured the floor like 100 times, and just imagined like how much of the main floor would it occupy and whatnot. So we started off with that, and I think after that it was easy in the sense it was hard, but it was easy because it's easy to take instruction from Rabbi Susan, someone like Rabbi Susan, because she's already, besides being knowledgeable, the added layer is the fact that she understands that she wants to bring that diversity that is also in my work, and that is important to me. So, it was a win-win.
Share.
Right. Yeah.
Do you have, Siona, you have some slides you were going to show? I think Shane was going to put up some slides so that people can see this inspiration and the beautiful floor.
Sure. Yeah, just a few images. We just thought we'll show like a little teaser of the book. Well, this first image is not in the book. It's just for people to see. It's a synagogue in Mumbai that all of us visited. One of the many synagogues. We went through a Jewish tour of India when I went with Rabbi Susan and her congregation to India. And this is one of the big synagogues in Mumbai. Next slide, please. And this is another synagogue that we all visited also in South India, which is the Kochini Pradeshi synagogue, which is built in 1568. I don't know if Rabbi wants to chime in and say anything about the history of whatever of these, please do. But it's the tiles were imported. This actually synagogue, I just want to point one thing out. The tiles were imported from China, and each tile is a little different. And we stood on the floor, and it's like these tiles were kind of inspirational too, besides the Beth Alpha one. It was just interesting to see the diversity of these synagogues and how the Ekal or the Bima is in the center, as against Ashkenazi synagogues being up front. So,
not only that, but remember, we found that in all of the synagogues that had a balcony, the Torah stand was in the balcony where the women sat, so that the women could enjoy the reading of Torah as well as the men. We were really moved by that. Right?
Yes, that's right. That's right.
And India is also one of the only countries in the world that never expelled its Jews.
Yes.
I thought that was very interesting. I did Siona watch the film Blue Like Me, which everybody should watch. It's on Amazon Prime if you have Amazon Prime, and it's 30 minutes, and it's just fabulous. But one of the things that struck me was how accepted Jews were in India, and for hundreds of years. It actually reminded me, we had been to Cuba. And it reminded me a little bit of the openness to Jews actually in Cuba as well. So that was striking.
Right. Jews have always, there's many reasons, and I don't want to get too much into it because I can sidetrack, but Jews have been in India, they've been accepted. India boasts about its diversity, about the acceptance of people coming, the Parsis, Zoroastrians, Buddhists, Christians, every kind of person. But also, I think Jews were micro-minority in India, so they didn't really come in the main conflict. So, if there wasn't whatever there was between Hindu, Muslims, like every country has something. The Jews didn't, they were too small a community to, and they blended in well, and they like, just like Rabbi said, they, accepted other cultures as being their own and didn't stand out and sort of separate themselves. So that acceptance on either part was very interesting. So the floor over here was kind of interesting. That's why I put this one in, and I want to go forward so you don't. And then, Rabbi, you want to say a little bit about this? This is the Jantar Montage.
One of the very first places we went to was Jaipur. Of course, we had to go see the Taj Mahal, so we ended up in Jaipur as well. And right there was a place called Jantar Montage, which is one of the great astrological parks in the world. And I mean, this got our attention. And we went from sign to sign and we took pictures of all of the signs. And we said, these are going to go on the floor one day. And I remember that day. It was so beautiful. We rode elephants too.
Yes, right. Yeah. So this is a very old, it's one of the Mughal kings got, I don't know, I forget the exact date. I should have written the date down, but like, was it 13 or 1400? It was very old astrological park in Jaipur that was very amazing. Sundials and all kinds of stuff was there too. And the Zodiac sign, which you can see pictures of. Next. And so we started the whole planning with including the congregation. One thing which I really liked is Rabbi is very inclusive. So a lot of the congregation members were included, and that was very nice because this way we got an okay and, from everybody. And, although me and Rabbi studied mostly together and not everybody together, but the initial, plans were shared with the architect and the congregation members and everything. So here's a picture of that. And this is also, some of the pictures are in the book, but more are there that are not in the slideshow.
It was a big commitment, and it was going to take up a lot of the huge entrance to the synagogue. So we wanted people to buy in.
Right, exactly. Yeah, be happy when they came to the synagogue and not feel like, what is this? Yeah. Next. And so I just threw in this is actually in the book also. It's like the very, very rough drawing that me and Rabbi did, it's interesting. We just did this, what goes where kind of thing, right? Very initial placement. We changed a few things around, but this is like one of the very first sketches with all the notes. So it's interesting for people to see the process. And that is what is in the book that when you buy, you'll see a very interesting process of the making of this floor. And along with Rabbi's essay, which explains to you every symbol in there and why we placed what and, where, so to speak. Next. The next few are just showing process. Like this is how I started painting a 3-foot circle. I did it on a wooden primed wood. And next.
And the paint, and then, you told me gouache and gold. So there's actually gold paint on the original painting, right? Yes.
And I use gouache and some fluid acrylics and, a mixture of those kind of paints. And, I studied Indian Persian miniature painting. So the process of like layering paint is very important, where as you layer the paints, it makes the color richer. So it's not just one layer of paint. If you lay down one color and then the next color makes it, even more and more richer. So, that kind of building up of transparent layers is what makes that gem-like quality of the paint, which was very important for it to be transferred to the ceramic tiles. Next. And here's also another process picture, which is very interesting, where I would have, I don't know how many FaceTimes and phone calls with Rabbi Susan.
Hundreds.
Sending her, I would do a sketch or a part of it, and then I'd text it to her, and then she would look at it and she would send me some comments. And, so I kind of saved all of some of these pictures in a file titled Process. And we didn't know we were going to make a book or anything out of it, but I just found like the process of this kind of project was so interesting. So I saved a lot of the process pictures, little knowing that it'll be so useful to make this book in the end. So this is like Rabbi labeling the parts for me.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we put in Tu B'Av, which is a little known holiday that's the Jewish Valentine's Day. Right.
Yeah.
So we
Right.
put in lots of moon holidays, new moon holidays, and full moon holidays. as well.
Right. And yeah, the placement of the moons, where they should go exactly, like, which one should be a full moon, which should be a half moon, which should be a sliver of a moon, like, and why, and all that stuff is worked out
We're
for
moon people.
Rosh
Right.
Chodesh, right? Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Mhm. Next. I don't want to take up too much. Yes, this is the final painting, the scan of the final painting. So once the painting was done, it was scanned at very high resolution. I have this amazing scanner printer guy, and he sends it to the tile maker in Florida. And the tile maker has already started the process with me of taking some of my paintings or taking parts of this once he gets the scan and sending me little tile samples. So I have like a lot of tile samples. Color matching was back and forth now between the tile manufacturer and me to make sure that the colors are matching as close as possible. Printing on paper is much easier. Printing on tile and getting that kind of color matching is tedious. I also researched many tile manufacturers. I went to tile manufacturers in London and Europe and Italy, and I finally found one in Florida that was, I mean, he proved the most color correct tiles to me. So, and he was really nice to work with, and I'm hoping I will do another project with him because his it's so important to work with somebody who works nicely with you and works openly with you. And he was a pleasure to work with. So this tile company. So he did not once cringe about sending me yet another tile sample to make sure that the colors matched, So it was very nice. Next.
And that was important in the book too. The book had to be the right color. All the colors had to be right.
Yeah. Yeah, it's all about color. So just to give you a quick example, Rabbi, I think I'll let you talk a little bit about this too, because this is my original painting of Sarah and Hagar, which I had done, which was bought by a buyer, and now it is in the collection of the American University Museum in DC, actually. And this is talking about Sarah and Hagar, how they are intertwined. My idea of, I was raised very closely with Muslims, and the Jews and Muslims lived very closely together in Mumbai, because we consider ourselves a little different from the idol worshipping Hindus a little bit. We didn't segregate, but it was more like affinity towards each other. And it was amazing when I think back that the synagogue and the mosque in many, many places were right next to each other. And the caretaker of many synagogues in Mumbai and several parts of India are Muslim people. Also the person who actually also carved the stone carver for the cemetery in Mumbai is also a Muslim man. So I grew up with this sort of diversity, and then I come abroad and I see, this kind of strife in the Middle East and otherwise, and this separation. So I did this painting of Sarah and Hagar hugging each other, but there's a suicide bomber, there is some soldiers, there's a webcam camera looking at them, and they are breaking apart, like they're almost exploding. So even though they are hugging, they are sort of exploding because of maybe a suicide bomber coming forward to shake their hand on the other side, on the right side of the painting. So taking this as an inspiration, next. And this is a detail of the two heads coming together. So Rabbi Susan really liked this particular painting. Next. And so, she said the Sarah and Hagar in our floor should also be embracing. And what we did is just different, is that we kind of merged the third eye, right?
You're sharing that third eye.
She's sharing the third eye. So instead of the third eye, like cosmically in Hindu mythology being in the center of the forehead, they're kind of sharing it together. So almost their faces have merged. Mm-hmm. And we wanted to talk about the promise of unity and the promise of peace.
There's a symbol all over the floor, and the kids noticed this right away. There are little red drops, the shape of heaviness. And, there's a question for every holiday. There's a teaching and a question. And the question, one of the questions in this panel that's Rosh Hashanah, because we read the story of Sarah and Hagar on Rosh Hashanah, the new year, is that drop of blood, is it the bloodline that they share, or is it the blood of the conflict? And the kids have a wonderful time trying to answer that question, addressing that. There's no real answer. It's up to us.
Right. I like that dichotomy I like to present that in my art, where somebody sees it as positive, somebody sees it as negative, and then you're able to have a debate about it. It's not just one way. It's like how you see it. There are swords in my paintings or something like that. And people say, oh, the swords are a weapon. And some people say they are a protection. So, it depends what point of view that you come from. And I like to leave that conversation open for people to, make their own conclusions. Next. And then this was just for you to see, this is like the basic layout that between my printer guy and the guy in the tiles, they had to decide how they're going to divide the tiles out. That was like a mathematical challenge as to, they're not all just like, pie, like drawing a line in the middle and just making a pie shapes. We had to see that, some of the tile cuts don't go in between faces, or just, so how to arrange it in the best possible way so that it doesn't cut certain important parts. So, moving that grid around was like, it was also really interesting to kind of do. Next. And then the laying of the tile. Rabbi, this is an interesting story, right?
So this man is a Bosnian Muslim. As we know, we're very blessed to have a huge Bosnian Muslim community in St. Louis. So he's a Bosnian Muslim, and he told us that he laid the tiles in Saddam Hussein's palace. That's how famous a tile layer he was before he came to America. So we were very blessed and honored that this Bosnian Muslim famous tile layer laid our floor as well.
Right. Yes, it was really nice. And the next slide. Yeah, and then was this his son or somebody?
Yeah,
right? I think where he was like, they put the grout in the tile, and each of the tiles became numbered and with stickers on them, and they were all spaced out exactly, and like just laid out. So this is giving you an idea. Next. And then the final floor.
And that cutout was there. The cutout for that floor was there from the time we built the building, because I knew that one day there would be something that would fill that space. And I'm grateful to Siona that it came to be.
Well, I'm grateful too. As an artist, I wanted to say that, I taught a little bit, but, I do a lot of commissions. And so artists like me have to kind of, I use the word, I have to hustle a lot, to get work and get not only just work, but get, interesting work. And so I feel like I'm blessed that I've gotten some projects like this where, I can learn also about, something new, obviously from a scholar, rabbi, but also, I can then collaborate and make something out of it now.
And something new. Something new, something that sparks a new idea, like those Zodiac Floors, I think, did so long ago.
Right.
And carefully in this picture, you can see the painting. The painting is leaning on the wall behind us.
Yes, that's the original painting that we framed also. But I wanted to say one more thing also. In the original Beth Alpha synagogue, which I've also seen in Israel, I learned about it before I saw it. And I was studying also with Rabbi Burton Vysotsky. And there was this repeated question. People, would say, oh, if you're making Jewish art, there should be no figures in your work. And Rabbi Susan and Rabbi, Burton Vysotsky and people like that have told me there is no such thing saying anywhere like this. The oldest floors in the world have figures in it. It is, you don't bow down to a figure. You don't worship a figure, but you can paint a figure. It's okay. Go do it. Paint more blue people. So I did, and I do, and I make it very clear. They're actors on a stage. They're acting out their part. They are not any gods and goddesses. Yeah, I come from a culture which is predominantly Hindu or Muslim, or which has 1,000 million gods or whatever. But that's also misinterpreted. There's the one Brahman, which is like the Ein Sof in Judaism, and the different gods and goddesses are the incarnations of that Brahman or that Ein Sof. So they actually worship those gods, but they're actually just incarnations. They are not really gods. So that's also a misinterpretation where people say that Hinduism has 1,000 and whatever, so many thousands of gods. But, it's just interesting that, how these dogmas are created and these superstitions or whatever. And then, when you clear it up and you present it confidently, that people actually learn to accept it and say, wow, I didn't know. And how you say it is really important. I think it's really important.
The floor tells a story. Of who we
Siona,
are.
you've talked so much. The colors are just, so important to this. And the color blue, as I mentioned earlier, is a signature color of yours. And it, Susan writes in the book how it picks up from a lot of different faiths and traditions. There's the blue of the Virgin Mary, there's blue in the tzitzit. So, and I love the way you talk about what this blue kind of symbolizes. So could you talk about that blue a little bit? Because it's just so striking.
Sure. To tell you, in short as possible, I was doing these figures. I wanted to do something in my work which involved memoir and storytelling, because I realized that I'm not a white male artist doing a certain kind of work which I was told in my school to do that would get me the certain kind of notoriety. I found I don't like big, large abstract paintings. I like small, delicate, feminine storytelling paintings. And once I realized that is who I am, and how do I do it, and where do I start? And so I started more with nostalgia, and then I started building these characters, and then I started studying Midrash and getting involved with more and more storytelling and recycling of storytelling. And then I realized, I'm going to paint these characters, and I'm going to paint them and use these characters as a story, as a jumping board to be able to talk about today's socio-political issues or what's happening today. So I'm not painting these characters in their time and their place, because that's boring to me. And so when I bring them forward and I try to connect them to today's people, today's audience, what do they look like? How do they behave? What do they wear? And I started thinking, what shade of brown should I paint my characters? And I was like, light brown, dark brown. And that went on in my head for a while. And then I thought, I want it to be a neutral color there where she belongs everywhere and nowhere. Because sometimes I feel I belong everywhere and I feel like I fit in. And sometimes I can be in the most familiar of circumstances and I feel I don't belong there. And it's just, like schizophrenic, I can't predict it, And so that feeling has always constantly been there with me. And it's something that keeps coming around. And also people asking me or pointing out, how come there are Jews in India? Or how come there's so many different questions people ask about the different norms or the prejudices that they have. And instead of shaking my finger at them and saying, no, you're wrong, or getting upset with them, how could I say it with humor? And how could I say it as a story? So I built this blue skin character, the color of the sky and the ocean, and the color of the tzitzit, and the color of the Israeli flag, and the color of the Hindu gods, and the color of blue pottery in Jaipur, and the color of blue pottery in many other countries. And this turquoise color is and the color of mostly the ocean and the sky. And so this color became a universal color. So she could belong nowhere and everywhere. I don't want her to belong anywhere. And I want her to belong everywhere. So, it's just that feeling. And so first it was like, what are you making, Smurfs? Blue skin characters, and so, but I just kept at it and I was persistent and I built up that character slowly after many years, and it became convincing and real to me.
Yeah.
It became an outlet for me to be able to talk about these issues that were always cropped up in my life, and I couldn't do anything about it, and they were there, but it became a vehicle for me to be able to talk about it. And then it led on to me thinking that there is no home, there is no permanent home or what I'm seeking, but I just build my tent, put my tent wherever I am, and it's okay. And I should learn to enjoy that, you know?
Well, and I think that's also like a very Jewish concept as well.
Exactly. The word diaspora comes from, is the right, Rabbi? Is the Jewish diaspora.
Of course. Yeah. I mean, yeah, we have to know what it is that no one can take from us. You know, and so we're always asking, what is our essence? Because wherever we go, we have to be able to take it with us. You know, and we've had to go a lot of different places. The other thing I wanted to say that Siona was so generous with is because, you know, one of our core values is to be an inclusive community to the LGBTQ community, to the Jews of color. Also that we are a community that celebrates the voices of women in a patriarchal tradition. And so you were very generous to also give us, in addition to the beautiful blue skin color, which, you know, is so natural. It feels so natural on the floor. It just feels like it belongs there. But we also have women of all different skin tones. We've got Black women, we've got brown women, we've got one Ashkenazi woman sort of thrown in. We have our messianic figure is a trans person of color with tattoos all over. We have a beautiful naked Black body that is birthing Hannah, who is the mother, you know, the quintessential mother, birthing the new year on this floor. And, you know, we had a conversation because, you know, it's right in the center of the synagogue. It's where the children worship. It's where the babies play. And she's naked, you know. And so we had a conversation because somebody asked me, should we put some clothes on her when they saw the initial paintings? And so I said to Siona, you think we should put clothes on her? And she said, no, her body is beautiful. And it is. It's Black and it's beautiful and it's pregnant. We did tone down her breasts a little, I'll say. Her breasts were a little perky. And we did tone down the breasts a little bit. But I'll tell you, the kids have no trouble with that.
Yeah, because also we did some design on her body. So it looks like kind of like a kind of tattoo clothing on her.
Yes, she does. That's true. So the women's bodies in this on the, you know, that depict all the different holidays are also you know, tell an incredible story.
I am going to see if Shane has, I think he's managing the questions. I want to be sure to get questions if there are any from the audience.
So we have a few questions, but a lot of comments, a lot of people just congratulating both of you, saying how beautiful the floor is, how much it means to them. So, but I will ask we have a lot of comments, so that is very exciting. But Deborah says, hi, Siona. Hi from St. Louis via West Orange and Benai Keshet, home of your magnificent Megillah. So
we also have the Megillah in CRC, which is the story of Esther, the book of Esther that's illuminated by Siona, which is also a really radical feminist Megillah, story of Esther, because it has Vashti, who some people would turn into the hero, as Esther's big sister watching out for her in the frames, which I love.
Yep.
So for Leslie, this is being recorded. So for everyone watching, if you are as moved by this as I am, you can share this afterwards to all of your Facebook followers, all of your friends on Facebook, and it will be recorded on the Left Bank Books Facebook page as well as the CRC's Facebook page. So it will live on forever as wonderful kind of tribute to this book. The Lisa says, amazing collaboration, magnificent artwork, so fascinating and inspiring. Peter's asking about a time-lapse installation. which I did not know existed. So I think that is. Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah. Did you want me? We talked about, we got a student from WashU, right, Rabbi Susan, who was amazing, and he set up a ladder and all the equipment, and he took time lapse videos and pictures of
It's online.
installation, and it's online. It's also on my website.
It's on your website.
It's also on my under it's on my website too, and it's then he made the time lapse, and so he put some fun music on there, and you can actually see the whole installation, and it's really nicely done, and it's really fun. Yeah, it's done by a student from WashU.
One of the things I will say about that installation that really caught my eye was how it was installed. It had to be done so precisely as you showed in the slide, and how it was done from the outside, kind of moving into the middle, as opposed to starting with the very centerpiece and working out. But the installation, it was, the way it was done was interesting to watch.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And I was like, I'm not a tiler or anything, but I was wondering, like, oh my God, like, is the last tile going to fit,
Right. It's like when they put the last pieces in the arch.
Yeah, the last.
That was another really a struggle. What to put in the center. We really struggled with that. What to put in the center. We almost put Shabbat in the center because Shabbat, is what holds us together, this gift of time. But we ended up putting Dina. Dina, the Shekinah,
talk a little bit about that.
Her.
Yeah, that was so nice.
She's the one daughter of Jacob, and he has 12 sons, and a couple of grandsons there, and they become the 12 tribes. But Dina didn't get a tribe, and as feminists, as women, I very much wanted to bring some balance. I think I became a rabbi to bring women's voices into the tradition. They're there. We just don't always hear them. And for me, Dina is multi-layered. The figure of Dina in the center of this circle is multi-layered. I think when people of color come in and they see themselves on the floor, they belong. They're built in. When little girls see themselves as the center of the floor, nobody can marginalize them. But it's even more than that for me. Dina, the Shekinah, the indwelling of God in the center of the floor, reminds us that, as you spoke so beautifully about Hinduism and the many gods, the many gods for all of us are really one. And, for me personally, it's the God that I find within. So, we are part of God. God is part of us. God is not something separate from us. God is our moral center. God is what helps us to stand firm and to do the right thing, to have the kind of moral courage that it takes to live in the world. And so Dina at the center of the circle, as the Shekinah, reminds us of the indwelling of God, not to look for something out there, but to find godliness and goodness within ourselves.
And the whole concept of tikkun that also we shared in this, the concept of the breaking of the pots and how you put together that also kind of gave me meaning besides the blue characters. My whole thing was like, what is the meaning of being an artist? Why am I doing this? I could have been a lawyer or a doctor, I don't know, or a carpenter or anything, with equal, weight in it. But then I started thinking, what is the drawing factor as to what is my mission? And I feel that once I learned about Tikkun Olam again from all these rabbis that I studied with and really understood it, I felt like mine is a drop in the ocean. It doesn't matter, but it is a drop still that's adding to the ocean. And so, that is the contribution or the effort that you put into doing something. The process is just very valuable, more than the end result, or just as much as the end result.
Well, you wrap truth with beauty. In beauty is what you do in your art. And Wendy brought up something interesting that it's there, but I hadn't thought about it. And the idea of a mosaic. all of those little pieces of tessera, all of our tiles are almost like, the story of the shattering of the vessel and it coming back together.
That's right.
Pieces back together. And of course, at the St. Louis Art Museum, we've got the the opposite of that, right? That Anselm Kiefer piece of the pulverized glass in front of his piece, that there's no way those pieces are coming back together. It's such a hopeless piece. I mean, for good reason. It's Kristallnacht. It's a Holocaust piece. It's it's a devastating piece. And yet, right on the other side of the park, we've got this redemption piece of all maybe the pieces coming there.
Right. So it's like, so it's so important. Like some art talks about the destruction and some art talks, poetry, art, whatever, talks about the, the repair. And it's both as important, I feel, where you have to sometimes present the destruction because, and then, maybe the hope comes after that, but sometimes the hope doesn't come after that. And then what do you do? But it's a lesson learned, so to speak.
It's in the floor. I mean, there's a moment of the Holocaust on the floor, the pink triangle that the gay community was killed during the Holocaust. There's Hanukkah. The Hanukkah story that we chose is not the little cruise of oil. The Hanukkah story we chose was Deborah,
Judith.
With Judith cutting off the head of the general Holofernes, right?
Mm. How did you choose which women you were going to include?
Good question. Well, I think, they came from the, we wanted to show each holiday. And so it was easy to pick Sarah and Hagar for Rosh Hashanah, right? It was easy to pick Esther, for Purim, and Miriam for Passover, Eve for Tu B'Shvat, the tree, there's a wonderful depiction of Rosh Chodesh with the woman of gold, because the women didn't give up their gold for the golden calf, and so they were rewarded with this new moon holiday is one of the stories. So, it was easy to pick the women. And Hannah, as I said, this beautiful black pregnant body woman, mother, giving birth to the new year. It was easy. And then, I think it was really an inspiration to have the messianic figure be a trans figure, an and figure. On Tisha B'Av, the saddest day of the Jewish year, we also believe that the Messiah will be born, and that figure that fills that frame of Tisha B'Av, that the 9th of Av, that saddest day of destruction, that this trans figure, they are coming up out of the ashes there. Beautifully blue.
And kind of reversing some of the stories, like, making Eve be in the tree, not the villain eating the apple for Tu B'Shvat, right? So,
exactly.
She actually revered knowledge instead of, being the evil one who did something wrong.
We had a long talk about that, remember?
Yes.
We said Eve is our Redeemer. Thanks for getting us out of that garden where we had no work to do.
Yes, it would have been boring there.
Right. Yeah.
Nothing to do.
Siona,
it would have been like quarantine.
Right.
And I was just going to say, I think it's like
this. Let's get out into the world, enough of the eating.
Yeah.
Are there any more questions, Shane? I want to make sure. Okay.
So I'll start with a couple of comments because Carol's comment especially. I am absolutely mesmerized by all of your words. Whenever I have visited CRC, I am in love with the floor, and absolutely the same. James says blue is godly. Good job. So, but then we do have a couple of questions. Kashiana is asking, Jaipur has tile work expertise as well. Mm-hmm. Did you bring any inspiration from there for the floor?
You want to say actual tiles?
Well, I think just maybe talk a little bit more about the inspiration.
Well, there's the Jaipur blue pottery. They use a certain kind of, that blue is also, it's known for that certain kind of turquoise blue. And they have tiles. So we bought little souvenirs and stuff, but we knew there was no way that we could get the tiles made over there and shipped all the way. So we had to find somebody over here. That was, I get some of my shawls made in India. Not anymore right now, though, because of the pandemic, because factories have closed down. But I have found other sources over here. But we didn't think about that because but we did look at a lot. There's a lot of handicrafts in India, a lot of artistry and handicrafts and village craft and folk art, and it's just filled with stuff. So
color, so much color. There's color everywhere. It's so beautiful. The fabrics, the textures, the colors. And I think you walk in and you see the colors on that floor, and I wondered if it was going to be too much, but it's just right.
There's people in India not shy of color. And so that's what I also learned as there's no going back. You bite the bullet and you got to do the color. Otherwise, why be wishy-washy, Yeah.
Amy is asking, is the Zodiac actually part of any Jewish tradition?
Yes. Read the book.
Read the book.
There's a little bit of an essay in the book, but there's many references to astrological signs, to the Zodiac in Jewish tradition. And, some of my very favorite, as I said, Mazel Tov. When we say Mazel Tov, it means may your stars be good. And, you'll see many references in the Talmud and in Jewish texts to the Zodiac.
Yeah. There's a big section in the book about, not big, but like a substantial section about the connection of Zodiac. Even in the beginning.
There's a lot written on it. In fact, as the book was coming out, there was two archaeologists in Israel actually published a paper about the Zodiac floors. Wouldn't you know? In northern Israel, in the Galilee. So it was very affirming for us.
Yeah, the Bet Alpha is really interesting as an inspiration, and we've all seen it. So it was easy to kind of use that and keep that in the back of our minds, And,
the sun god, the idea that the sun god is in the center. For me, right away, I was thinking about how Galileo was ostracized for saying that, the earth moved around the sun. But the rabbis, in the 4th to 6th centuries were already putting the sun in the middle. I think we knew that we were not the center of the universe. And that is a very important, I think, theological point. We human beings, we are not the center of the universe. We're here to serve, not to be served.
Siona,
on our floor.
Kashiana was in fact wondering about the blue pottery, if that had been staying in your mind. So that was a wonderful answer to the question. And last question from Jill is, are these stories and connections to holidays included in the book?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. How the holidays are all connected one to the other as well.
Yeah, how the flow happens. How, how one leads to another. That was really important and challenging too. And, for me, that was something for Rabbi to tell me, because she's the scholar and I have to put it into pictures, so to speak, and show, make that flow happen.
But it didn't happen pain by pain with the holiday. No, there's a much more of a flow. It's very artistic. It's not what you called it menorah art, right? Where you just, it's kind of boring and it's predictable. This floor and these holidays are not boring and they are not predictable, I think. Thanks to Siona.
Well, let me say one thing. We artists wouldn't do anything without patrons and synagogues. And I just finished another synagogue where I did the Torah art curtain and the Amud, what can I say? It gives us opportunities to bring our art into the world and for people to have dialogues like this, and to learn. I want to learn from teachers like rabbis like that. It's very gratifying.
Mhm.
I love storytelling, and I love recycling of stories, and I love midrash, and so you know.
It's so visible in your art. It's so visible.
Thank you.
Well, I want to thank all of you for this incredible conversation, this beautiful book, the beautiful things that you do for the world. So thank you all for
Thank
this
you.
wonderful event. I hope that the audience enjoyed it as much as I did. I have a feeling they did. But from Left Bank Books, thank you all for making this happen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And the book is available for sale at left-bank.com. We just got our copies in today, so it won't show up as being on our shelves now, but it will very, very soon show up on the website as being on our shelves now. And I hope that we sell out immediately and have to get in more copies. This is a great holiday gift, a great gift for really any time of year. And thank you all so much. We will see everyone next time. And have a
Thank
good
you.
evening, everyone.
You
Thank
too.
you.
Hi.
Thanks. Bye-bye.